Hello everyone, my name is Saber, and today we're going to talk about the Winchester Mystery House. And yes, you heard that right. I said Winchester as in the Winchester Firearms Company that manufactures both weapons and ammunition. But if you watch the show Supernatural, then you probably know the name Winchester as in the two main characters of the show, Dean and Sam Winchester, which I believe is loosely based off of this story. Just because they're called Winchester and the show is called Supernatural and there's a real life haunted house called the Winchester Mystery House. You can put two and two together. Either way, this is a really interesting story that I've had a good time researching. But before we get into that, I just want to say thank you for watching. Before we continue, I need to give you a quick history lesson. The year is 1857. A man named William Wirt Winchester, the son of Oliver Winchester, has taken over the Winchester Firearms Company, and William made a lever-action rifle called the Volcanic Repeater. And this, for the time, was a huge deal because people were still using muzzle-loading weapons, muskets, flintlocks, and the like, making this rifle a huge advancement in firearms technology for the time, and would serve as a precursor for most modern lever-action rifles that we know today. After the Volcanic Repeater, William would invent the Henry repeating rifle. Correction, William Winchester did not invent the Henry rifle. He invented the Winchester Model 1873, which was an evolution of the Henry repeating rifle. Sorry for that mix-up, which at the time was just called the Repeater. The reason why this weapon was such a big deal is because there was only a 3-second delay between shooting then chambering a new round. Shoot then chamber, rinse, wash, repeat, you get it. This was a really big deal, not just for the Civil War, but for the Winchester Repeating Arms Company. For people that don't know, during the Civil War, America was divided into two factions, the Confederacy and the Union. And the Union were especially interested in the repeating rifle. Spoiler alert, superior firepower is kinda how they won the war. Look, we're jumping around in the timeline a lot, and it's going to be very confusing for now, but trust me, everything will make sense at the end. Alright, now let me introduce you to the Winchester family. On September 30th of 1862, Sarah Lockwood née Pardee would marry William Wirt Winchester. After getting married, Sarah Winchester would acquire 50% of the Winchester Company, and like I said at the beginning, the rifles made the Winchester Company extremely profitable, so much so that Sarah, who again owned half the company, had a daily income of $1,000, which in today's money that's around $29,036.37, which is only slightly lower than Mr. Beast's daily income. For a short period of time, the couple were living happily together, and in 1866 they even had a daughter together. But then, 1 month later, things would take a turn for the absolute worst. Sarah's daughter, Annie Winchester, would die of a wasting disease called marasmus. This disease only affects infants, from what we know, but what we also know is that this disease is more common in third world countries in Africa. So a relatively healthy American baby dying from this was unheard of and just downright weird, even for that time. Then on March 7th of 1881, William would die of tuberculosis. At around this point, Sarah had lost just about everyone she cared for, which brought her to a really desperate point in her life. As you could probably imagine, all she really has is wealth. And after Sarah's husband died, she would inherit even more money. About $20 million to be exact, which, again, translating that to today's money, puts us at around $561.6 million. That's more than what Mr. Beast makes in a year. Trust me, the amount of money she makes is important till later in the story, just bear with me on this. Alright, this is chapter 3. This is the real meat and potatoes of the story. I've already given you so much build up, so now it's time for a payoff. Let's go. So shortly after her husband died, Sarah was looking for answers. Then one day, her friend decided, hey, let's go see a spiritualist, or a medium as they are more commonly referred to as. Keep in mind, this is a time when newspapers actually did look like the ones in Red Dead Redemption. Suffice to say, some of these people believed in a lot of crazy shit. So prepare yourself for what comes next. They meet with the medium, she does her thing, then they tell Sarah that her husband spoke to them. They tell Sarah that the husband said that there is a curse on the Winchester family because they made a rifle that killed a lot of people, and now Sarah's family is dead, and that she is going to be haunted by the spirits of the people that were killed by the rifle that her family invented. The medium then said that she needed to sell all of her property in New Haven, which is where she was living at the time, and move towards the setting sun, where she will find a place to start a new life, and that she will recognize it when she sees it. There, she will build a house for herself and the people that were killed by the rifle, and that even at that point, she can never stop building the house, because if she stops, then she will die. If she keeps building the house, she will continue to live. So, when you get told news like that, obviously you do what the medium just told you to do. Haven't you ever seen a horror movie before? Well, neither has Sarah, but she did anyway. So, like the medium told her to do, she moved west, all the way to Santa Clara Valley in California, where she would find a house that was under construction that was originally intended for a Dr. Caldwell, and at that point Sarah had a gut feeling that this is where she needed to start. So she convinced Dr. Caldwell to sell the property that consisted of 162 acres and the house that already had 6 rooms built. Sarah then destroys the house plans, hires the workers that were already there, and some extra craftsmen that were available, and then they begin work on the new house. The construction would take place over the course of 36 years, and each year Sarah would keep at least 22 carpenters working on the house for the entire 24 hours of each day. The VFX artists at Marvel that had to miss their kid's birthday to animate She-Hulk twerking and got nothing on this. Over the course of those 36 years, it would get to the point where an entire railroad was shifted over to the house so that supplies could be directly imported. The house itself would continue to grow and expand, acquiring 26 rooms, 3 elevators, and 47 fireplaces. Some of those rooms I mentioned would either be torn down just to be replaced by one more, or turned into entire wings, and then more rooms added to replace that. By the way, those are just the anomalies that we can count. The house would feature countless chimneys that stopped at the ceiling, and stairways and trapdoors, most of which led to nowhere. An anomaly we can count is the number 13. No one really knew why, but Sarah had a fascination with the number 13. Each window contained at least 13 panes of glass. The walls had 13 panels. The greenhouse had 13 cupolas. By the way, if you don't know what that is, here's a picture of a cupola. By the way, you're not dumb. I didn't know what that was either. Every staircase, except for one of them, had 13 steps. The wooden floors had 13 sections, and some of the rooms would have 13 windows. And the staircase that didn't have 13 steps was even weirder. This was a spiraling staircase that consisted of 42 extremely shallow steps. The entire spiral rose up to 9 feet tall, because each step was only 2 inches tall. The reason for this is because Sarah at the time was an old lady who was only 4 feet tall and had arthritis in her knees, so she needed a special staircase in order to get around properly. The house itself had a lot of unnecessary details. It was almost as if a crazy person was building it because a crazy person was building it. But crazy as she was, Sarah was also extremely generous, letting people live in the house for a little bit and building people their own houses. This entire process would continue until 1906 when the San Francisco earthquake hit, where most of the house would collapse never to be rebuilt again, and the fireplace in Sarah's bedroom would collapse, trapping her inside. She believed that she pissed off the spirits that brought her here in the first place, because the house was almost complete. So for the next few months, Sarah would board up one of the rooms that wasn't completed yet, in hopes it would trap the remaining spirits in that room, and the workers would continue adding to the house as they had been doing for the past 37 years. Until one day, where it's said that she had a seance in her seance room because, of course, she has a seance room. And then after that, on September 5th of 1922, Sarah Winchester would pass away at the age of 83. Alright, this should be the last part of the video. Also, I'm sorry if I sound weird. It's really late at night and I need to get this done. Let's fast forward to modern times. The house is currently located in San Jose, California, and is owned by Winchester Investments LLC. Like the title of the video says, this is a real house that you can actually go to. The footage I have to show you is limited because you do have to pay for an actual tour of the place, or you could go during Halloween and take the Halloween tour. I know I sound like I'm shilling for the place, but trust me, that's actually the only way you can get a good look at it. Try and think of it like an iceberg. All the videos you see are just the tip, and The actual house is what's underneath the surface. To put in perspective what I'm talking about, here's a map. So, apart from the seance room, the Daisy room, which was Sarah's bedroom, and all the other rooms I mentioned, the house was relatively empty. There wasn't a lot of furniture, and even more strange, the house only had 2 mirrors, one of which was in the Daisy room. This was done deliberately by Sarah because she believed that ghosts were afraid of their own reflection. Also, when I say Daisy room, that's actually a nickname given to Sarah's bedroom by the workers because of all the Daisy related imagery. And throughout the rest of the house, there was a lot of nature related decor because 1, she really liked nature. 2, a grand majority of the house had a lot of decor that was from other cultures. Most of the exterior had elements that were more commonly seen in the Czech Republic, and a pretty decent amount of the interior had a lot of Japanese decorations. Some bits of the house would have Persian, Egyptian, Greek, the list just goes on, mainly because a lot of the smaller bits and pieces of the house had decorations that didn't really belong to any culture. They were decorated just to look good, and by bits and pieces I mean all the way down to the doorknobs and door hinges. Everything about this house was decorated in some way, and usually it was done in the most expensive way, which over the course of a few years this would start to bite Sarah back in the ass. No one really knew for sure what she did with the rest of her money. Some theorized that she spent it all, and other people started to theorize that she took that money and turned it into gold and jewelry and hid it somewhere in her house. After Sarah's death, I know we're going back in time a little bit, but a few of Sarah's relatives really did believe that there actually was treasure hidden somewhere. But what they actually found was a safe that contained 2 obituaries, one for her husband and one for her baby, newspaper clippings about her husband, some socks, and a locket that contained a tuft of her baby's hair. As of recording this, the safe itself is empty, so you can still go there, but you're not going to find anything. And like I've said earlier, the house really is haunted. There are people that say that they've seen ghosts. There's people that claim to have seen ghosts while taking the tour. Other people have said that ghosts were taking the tour with them. Multiple psychics have visited the house, and some of them even claim that there are 13 ghosts still inhabiting it. And even fewer say that Sarah herself is haunting the house. But the most common encounters or experiences, whatever you want to call it, the most common experience you'll have is cold spots and doorknobs rattling by themselves. Whether or not this is artificial set dressing or an actual experience is up for debate. Remember at the beginning of the video when I said that the Winchesters were innovative and that was kind of foreshadowing? Well, I couldn't find a natural way to segue into that, so here we are. Do you remember Life Alert? If you don't, then you definitely remember the commercial for it.
I've fallen and I can't get up.
The concept is simple. An elderly person is in trouble, so they push a button and help is on the way. Anyway, I'm bringing this up because Sarah invented a system that was very similar to that, because remember, she had arthritis. So in the situation where she has fallen and cannot get up, she can just push a button and one of the workers can come and help her. This system didn't really have a name back then, since it was a completely original concept by her that operated less like a white little device that she presses and more like an intercom system. Gadgets like that were one of the many oddities of the house, but in my opinion it just goes to show how far ahead of their time the Winchesters were. Because I'm gonna get comments about it, yes, I know about the Winchester movie. The movie itself is a typical horror movie about a haunted house, and as you may have expected, it gets nothing right, and it seems like the movie was just made to advertise the house, because again, this is an actual tourist attraction that's registered as a national park that for some odd reason is relatively obscure, even with the movie. But yeah, that's the Winchester Mystery House. This video has taken me like the better part of a month to just research, let alone record everything, because again, it's nighttime and I needed to say everything while it was still fresh in my head, because Halloween is literally next week and I need to get this video out at least by then. If you've made it this far, then I greatly appreciate you for tolerating the half-awake version of me. Again, sorry for the really long wait time. This is probably the biggest video I've done for my channel, and if you've stuck around this far, I just want to say thank you so much for watching. It means the world to me that I have any audience at all and that I'm not just screaming into the void. So as always, if you like what you saw, please like, comment, and subscribe. Dislike it if you dislike it. Follow me on my socials if you haven't already. You're sexy and I love you, and I'll see you next time.